إذا أرسلته لأمي قبل بارك تلك كذا الآخر يصير الجلالين.
Sorry? It's all right, I think.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In a rush to get here, subhanallah, I forgot the book.
Tabarakallah. Then I asked for some help. Where's Muhammad Ilyas? I asked for some help. Anyway, never mind. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions. Sometimes I ponder upon this ayah of the Quran in which Allah ta'ala revealed يَوْمَ هُمْ بَارِزُونَ, on that day, referring to the Day of Judgment, when literally everybody will be apparent. No one will be hidden. يَوْمَ هُمْ بَارِزُونَ, meaning ظَاهِرُونَ. Everyone will be ظاهر. Everyone will be apparent. There will be no shade other than the shade of the Arsh. No shade of a mountain or a tree to rest in, or no structures that are erect to hide behind, no ditches or valleys to escape to. The mountains will be flattened and the valleys will be filled. Allah revealed, يَوْمَ هُمْ, on the day that they, meaning the people, all of the people. يَوْمَ هُمْ بَارِزُونَ لَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٍ. Nothing about them will be hidden from Allah. Neither they, the people, nor anything about them, meaning what? Meaning their deeds. لا يخفى على الله, like to say literally, is hidden from Allah about them? Nothing. Nothing at all is hidden from Allah about the people and their deeds. On that day, and then the ayah continues, Allah revealed, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. An angel will call out on that day and everybody will be made to hear. The angel will say, to whom is the dominion today? To whom is the apparent dominion? To everybody, because not everybody in this life admits or considers that Allah is the owner of everything. There are people who say Allah doesn't exist. So this angel will call out, and everybody on the plains of resurrection, they will hear, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ, a question, rhetorical question, meaning, to whom is the dominion on this day? لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. The dominion is to Allah, it belongs to Allah. Allah owns absolutely every one of you and absolutely everything. Allah is the subjugator and He is the only one. On that day, nothing will be hidden. On that day, every little injustice will come out. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wassalam said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَسْأَلُ عَنِ الْإِبْرَةِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. On the Day of Judgment, a person will be asked about the needle's worth of injustice that they did. Whether they were unjust such that they took an extra pound from a person, or even a penny from a person, or something so small from a person, even if it was as small as the size of a needle, even if that was the size of injustice that a person did, then they will be asked about that on the Day of Judgment. In Al-Adab al-Mufrad that we were going through, Al-Bukhari mentioned keeping the ties of kinship, the obligatory ties of kinship. In a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna ar-rahima shujnatun min Allah," meaning that the ties of kinship, they are among the signs of the mercy of Allah. One of the creations of Allah that is a sign of His mercy. Allah bestowing matters upon the creation that benefit them. Among those matters are the raindrops, halal sustenance. These are the signs of the mercy of Allah that Allah bestows. Likewise are the ties of kinship. They are intertwined with other matters that are the signs of the mercy of Allah. That's the meaning of Inna rahima shujnatun. Inna rahima shujnatun min Allah. And that on the Day of Judgment, Allah will enable the ties of kinship to speak. The scholars differed here. Some said this is metaphorical, because how will the ties of kinship speak? They don't exist as something palpable outside the mind. Some scholars said, however, though it is, as is apparent, that they will be given a form on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَلِلرَّحِمِ لِسَانٌ. لِسَانٌ وَلِلرَّحِمِ لِسَانٌ ذَلْقٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. اللِّسَانُ الطَّلْقُ الذَّلْقُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Meaning that on the Day of Judgment, the ties of kinship that a person had cut, the obligatory ties of kinship that a person didn't keep, whether due to ignorance or due to laziness, these ties of kinship, they will be fluent on the Day of Judgment. They will be eloquent on the Day of Judgment. And they will speak, and they will be severe. Not to say harsh, but they will be severe. Because they will have been wronged. Because there will be many people that will have cut the ties of kinship. And they will call those people to account. The ties of kinship will say, Ya Rabb, such and such cut me, so cut him. Meaning punish him. Such and such did not fulfill the right that was upon him, the right that was due to me upon him. Inna rahima laha lisanun dhalqun yawm al-qiyamah. Some of the scholars, you'll see the importance of this matter. Some of the scholars, when they spoke about Ar-Rahim and who it is one has to keep obligatory ties with, they said, some expressed it as saying, Huwa ila al-abi al-rabi'. It is up to the fourth father. So, or they said al-jaddu al-thalith. So it's not just that you have to keep your ties with your parents and their parents, or your siblings and their children, or your parents' siblings and their children, your first cousins. No. When the scholars said إلى الأب الرابع, up to your fourth father, this means one is obligated to keep ties with, of course, the level of one's parents, one's grandfather, one's great-grandfather, and one's great-great-grandfather. That is considered the your fourth father, al-ab al-rabi'. So you have your father, it's father number 1. His father, it's number 2. His father, it's number 3, which is your great-grandfather. And then al-abu al-rabi' or al-jaddu al-thalith, your third grandfather. This is someone who you have to keep ties with, including all their children and their children and their children. Once our Shaykh radiyallahu anhu, he was asked about this. Shaykh Samir, Allah yahfazuhu, Shaykh Samir al-Qadi, his wife asked Shaykh Abdullah about this when he gave a lesson about this. And she said to him, she made sure that هو إلى الأب الرابع, up to the fourth father. يعني الجد الثالث, the third grandfather, and all of their children, and that's a lot of people. She said, Maulana, that's most of Beirut. That's most of Beirut. Metaphorically speaking, that's a lot of people. You count your first cousins. Okay, now go a level above that. And a level above that. Shaykh Abdullah said yes. This is what the scholar said. Ila al-ab al-rabi'. So if somebody doesn't have ties with all those people, perhaps they didn't know that it is that far. You know, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he kept all his ties of kinship. Despite being very busy, alayhi salatu wasalam, despite being the messenger of Allah, he fulfilled this obligation. Some of our teachers, they asked Shaykh Abdullah, well, we are religious teachers, so what do we do? Because our time is very little, we teach, and so Shaykh Abdullah said, you'll find a way. You find a way. For some relatives, you can tell them that, will you excuse me for a while, for a few years? I'm not abandoning you, of course. I'm just a little busy. And they might excuse you for a while. But you see, in keeping ties with the larger family, there are so many benefits in that. So many benefits, so many blessings. Sayyiduna Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, he said, the one that keeps ties of kinship, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala blesses his life. And the one who keeps the obligatory ties of kinship, fulfills this obligation, he will be remembered for longer, meaning people will make dua for him longer, even after he dies. There are some people that live for thousands of years, but we don't know their name. They've been forgotten. Some people, like Ash-Shafi'i, they live for around 54 years, but we remember them to this day. That's because they fulfilled this obligation. Likewise, the scholar said that whoever keeps their ties of kinship, then good, literally athar, good traces, if you will, remain. They might be remembered for their knowledge, not for the sake of being remembered, but being remembered so that people can make dua for one. These are among the benefits of keeping the ties of kinship. So just as, and you see the great importance, look at all these hadiths. So as well as praying the obligatory prayers and perfecting the obligatory prayers, these obligatory prayers that are the most rewardable thing that a person can do in the day. The most rewardable thing. One should start, of course, after learning about the belief and so on. They should perfect their prayer. Then also the other obligatory matters, like Silatul Rahim. How will a person reach perfection? How will a person be what is known as Al-Mu'min Al-Kamil if they are not fulfilling this obligation? It requires effort. It requires a person to, if they're falling short, it requires them to come out of their comfort zone, their little bubble of habit, and to exert a lot of effort. And then this is a great benefit. Can you imagine if more people had contact with more of their relatives? Then if you are a person who has learned the correct belief in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then you could spread this, couldn't you? You could spread this to so many different people. That's why Shaykh Abdullah, even his students who were teachers, he didn't excuse them. He said this is an obligation that you have to fulfill. So this is a very, very important matter. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed in the Quran, يَوْمَ هُمْ بَارِزُونَ, on the day when people are literally apparent. لَا يَخْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٍ, nothing about them is hidden from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The angel will call out, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ. Who is it that everyone will now testify to them, to Allah having the dominion, being the owner of absolutely everything? Because on the Day of Judgment, a person cannot escape. Allah revealed in the Quran, in Surah Al-Rahman, that, O people, if you think that you are able to escape the Day of Judgment by climbing into the skies and beyond to escape the earth, or digging deep into the earth, then try. Allah revealed that this would not happen. A person would not be able to do that. Some of the pious, God-fearing people in the past, they had said, how I wish that I had been a stone or something inanimate, so that I wouldn't be held to account. They said that out of their great fear of what would come on the Day of Judgment. They said that fearing insincerity, but their state was very different to the state of many Muslims today. They were actually pious and God-fearing people. As for many Muslims today, it's not the same. If they, being pious and God-fearing people, if they wished that they had been something inanimate so that they wouldn't be held to account, then what about our situation? So any injustice that a person has done, whether it is physical, verbal, financial, a type of emotional manipulation that some people practice upon other people, any type of injustice, it should be settled today. A person should repent today. This is whether it is towards a Muslim or a non-Muslim. But the closer to home it is, the closer, as in one harming one's relatives, one harming one's children, one's siblings, one's parents, then the sin increases as well. So I remind you to take care of this issue. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu, once he stood upon the minbar and he urged the people to learn about their lineage. He urged the people to learn about their lineage as much as they need to be able to keep their ties of kinship. This was a matter that they did not fall short in. The Arabs in Al-Jahiliyyah, they would pride over their lineages and they would memorize them all the way back to whenever. They would know this person is from this tribe, this person is from that tribe. They would know who are the members of their family and so on. So this is something that carried through then to the time of the Prophet ﷺ, who said that he was sent to complete the good manners, meaning that the Arabs already had some or a lot of good manners in them, good practices in them. Yes, they used to worship idols, but other than that, they had a lot of good manners, and the Prophet came ﷺ to direct them to the remaining good manners ﷺ. So this is not something that is strange to the Muslims, to look at your lineage, to look at who your cousins are, to look at, to ask about what is the name of my first cousin's son and daughter, and so on and so on and so on and so on, so that they can fulfill this obligation and benefit them. And if they know more, your relatives, if my relatives know more, then they would benefit me. This is an important issue, as the Prophet ﷺ confirmed and conveyed. Insha'Allah, tomorrow we will continue with Al-Adab Al-Mufrad. But for the remaining time, Insha'Allah, because there are maybe 5 or so minutes left, I suggest we say La ilaha illallah. So if you repeat after me, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. Among the matters that one thinks about when mentioning Allah, mentioning La ilaha illallah, is that Allah is the creator. Recently, subhanallah, I was thinking about something, that the power of Allah Ta'ala is such, the signs of the power of Allah are so great, that, for example, if I ask you to imagine, or if I ask you to pick your favorite, let's say, chocolate, right? You think about your favorite chocolate. If you don't eat chocolate, then mashallah, think about something else that you like to eat, right? How amazing is the creation of Allah, that you would be able to, in your mind or your heart, Allahu A'lam where, you would be able to imagine the way that it tastes. How is that? La ilaha illallah. If you imagine a smell or a scent that you like, okay, even though it's not in front of you now, if you think about it, just thinking about it, you would be able to, to say imagine it, or you'd be able to smell it in your heart or in your mind. That is ajib. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the creator of that. If you want to imagine something in your mind, if you want to form an image of something in your mind with the utmost detail and the different colors and shades, and you can put anything in there that you like, that is going to be that image in your mind that you produce in less than a second. It's going to be so much more detailed than anything than today's graphic designers and what people produce on what they call AI can produce. Even with the great advances in technology, nothing compares to the human heart or the human mind. Nothing compares to the human eye. Nothing compares to these instruments such as the nose and the ear. And then you have consciousness. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created consciousness through the soul. And the thing is that we don't even know what the soul is exactly. Allah revealed in the Quran, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. Say, O Muhammad, alayka salatu wassalam, that the matter of the soul, the matter of the essence of the soul, like what is it and what is it made up of? This is known to Allah alone. It is with the soul that the body is fueled, if you will, or powered, charged even. Such that when the body loses the soul, when the vessel becomes empty, a person is considered to have died. It is through the soul that we gain, that we achieve consciousness, in the sense that we are able to think and feel and see, and whatever comes through us through the channel of our eyes and ears and our different senses, we have an understanding of it in the heart. Allah created the intellect. This is something that cannot be reproduced. It's something that cannot be produced in a laboratory, even though great advancements have been made in science and technology. So one looks at these matters and thinks about them deeply. This pondering, Ibrahim alayhi salam, among what was revealed to him, was that every person should have certain times in the day. One of the times in the day that they should plan or have in the day, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes, is that they would think about, ponder upon the creations of Allah. And this is what the Prophet used to do, alayhi salatu wassalam, when he used to go to Ghar Hira before revelation came to him. He of course knew that Allah exists. He would think about the creations of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. You can imagine things like this. Things like the fact that even if you, for example, if you've lost a loved one, you've lost your mother or your father, a sibling or a friend, or someone who lives far away and you don't have any contact with them anymore, or you haven't heard their voice for a long time. If I asked you now to imagine them speaking to you, it's as though in your heart you can hear their voice. If someone comes up to you and puts their ear next to your chest or on your head, they won't be able to hear a thing. Even with a stethoscope, no one will be able to hear a thing. But this, you being able to hear something that is not a sound inside you, this is a creation of Allah, a magnificent creation of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It is things like this that made some of the pious people who learned the bare minimum, they learned the personal obligatory knowledge, and they pondered upon things like this, and they had clean hearts, pure hearts. They were not able to, when they thought about things like this, they reached a point where some of them weren't able to withstand the magnitude of the signs of the power of Allah, how great of a thing that is. And then they think about the arsh, and the fact that the earth compared to the skies and the kursi and the arsh is tiny. And then we on this earth or very small. But we have such things in us. We have an imagination, we have intellect, we have consciousness. We're able to imagine smells and sounds and images, and that's just us. And then there are the skies and the angels and the arsh and paradise. And these pious people, some of them were not able to bear it, and so their intellect was taken from them. Their intellect was taken from them. Their bodies remained blessed, but their intellects were taken from them. And this is known about many people in the past who reached a high status. They were known as al-majadib. Literally, their intellects were taken from them, or yanked from them, if you will, because they would ponder about the creations of Allah. How is it that right now all of us are sitting here? Each one of us has a heart that is beating every second, most likely at a different speed. Each one of us has different thoughts. We are feeling either hot or cold. We're feeling agitated or we're feeling happy. Some of us are hungry, some of us are thirsty. So many different things. If we're to gather the thoughts that go through our minds within 1 minute, then we need volumes to write them down, just in 1 minute. Then what about the street and the area and the people in it? And then what about the town, the county, the country, the continent, the world? And then the angels in the skies who all have hearts, and that their hearts beat, and they have thoughts, and they utter words. They say, Subhanallah. All of that is under the control of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. All of that, all those systems, all those regimented mechanisms, all of that is under the control of Allah Ta'ala. When one thinks like that, if one thinks deeply, deeply into that, one is left in awe and mesmerized. Like I said, some of those pious people, they literally lost their minds because of the deep comprehension and the appreciation they had for this matter. So ponder about the creation of Allah. Allah revealed in the Quran that there are people that think about the structures such as the skies, they think about the earth, they think about all of the different signs of the power of Allah. These people are successful people. That's why the biggest sin, the most severe sin, the worst type of sin, absolutely, that a person could commit is to deny the existence of Allah. This is the worst kufr that a person could commit. Why? Because everything is a sign of the existence of Allah. Things have shapes, sizes, colors, textures, temperatures. Who set all that? Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Let's finish here today. Let's say 3 times La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Prepare for the last 10 nights. Lady Aisha said, radiyallahu anha, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يشد المئزر في ليالي رمضان العشرة الأخيرة. In the last 10 nights of Ramadan especially, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he would endeavor, he would strive. So make sure we should make sure that we don't fall short in the last 10 nights. And like I said, remember, if Ramadan is only 29 days, then the last 10 nights come earlier, one day earlier, so keep that in mind. Don't think that on the 20th night, for example, okay, don't think that that's when, let's say, the last 10 nights start. No, they can start earlier in case it's 29 days of Ramadan. Okay, Barakallah.
Bismillah. Just a few announcements.